All right. This is the third and last time I'm doing this video because I keep fucking it up and it keeps taking 15 minutes. But before I do anything, this was Gotti. See him? Pretty dog. Pretty service dog. It's a pretty dog. He was about 130 pounds. And this was also Gotti. That's all Gotti right there. And nope, that is not a scratch mark. That was a bite mark. Long story about Gotti, but we'll get there. So I watched a video the other night from the the Patriotic Constitutionalist, and I'd been thinking about it. It's been on my mind for a couple days, and I wasn't going to say nothing, and then I'm saying it. I disagree with you, Patriotic Constitutionalists. I don't believe the majority learn hate, or taught hate, I'm sorry. I believe it is learned through experiences of that person. For example, my son, my 13-year-old son, my nose is running, I'm sorry, forgive me. My 13-year-old son, 2 years ago, he was beat up by 11 black kids in his school. They held him down and kicked the shit out of my son. While they were doing it, we're talking sixth graders holding a third grader down at the time because my son was a year behind, kicking the shit out of him, screaming, "Beat that white boy's ass," and all this bullshit. So I get a phone call at work to come pick my son up, take him to the hospital. That's a whole nother issue. I know, we dealt with it. Whatever I did, we dealt with it. It was a problem, I assure you. But we dealt with it. So that wasn't the bad part about it. That wasn't the worst part about the situation. The worst part about the situation is they were going to suspend my son over it. My son did nothing wrong. There had already been a prior altercation during the day between my son and three of this group, and the school did nothing about it. They split them up. They didn't tell them to sit on opposite sides of the classroom. Nothing. So I go down to the school. The principal won't talk to me. Older black lady, and but I got a Confederate beanie I wear in the middle of the winter. It doesn't mean I hate you. It doesn't mean I hate blacks. I rock the Confederacy in the wintertime. It's just the way it is. I mean, like they're the Revolution 2.0. Shit had nothing to do with slavery anyway. But anyway, so I go in and I speak with the vice principal, and he's like, we're not going to suspend any of these kids, but we're going to give trading 3 days out of school. I'm like, yeah, okay. We're going to watch that happen. And I was trying to remember how this happened, and that's how it happened. I remember now. And I remember right then asking him, had he ever been in a fight before? I said, yeah, have you ever been in a fist fight before? And we're sitting down across at the ends of the long end of the table. He's like, no. And he realized as soon as I said it what I meant. And he straightened his act up real quick. My son's suspension went away. But then they only suspended one of these kids out of 11, suspended one of them for 1 day. Could you imagine if that had been my son being white and 10 of his white friends holding a black kid down, kicking the shit out of that black kid while screaming racial slurs at him? My son would have left in handcuffs. And we all know he would have. Flat out, on third grade or not, my son would have left in handcuffs. And that's a fact. Because I've seen it happen before at that school. Kids leaving handcuffs for shit like that. So, after all that mess, my dog Gotti, I had to threaten. It got to the point where I threatened to take him. I was like, you know what? I'm going to let my son. I was like, you know what? I could send my son to the school because something else happened after that. I was like, if you guys can't protect my son from these other kids switching classroom, or they was wanting to switch my son's classrooms, like, no, screw that. You switch them other kids' classrooms. They're the problem. My son ain't the problem. So they wound up shuffling some kids around. I don't know. And some other shit had happened. So I went back into the principal's office and I told the vice principal, I'm like, look, because they seen my dog before. And I'm like, you know my dog Gotti, right? And they're like, yeah, because I'd bring him up there. I'd walk him right in the school. He's my service dog. But they didn't know whose service dog he was. And when you have a minor child, that service dog, even if it's registered to the parent as the service dog of the parent, it can still be the service dog of the child. Meaning if Trading needed a service dog, that dog would actually be registered to me because I'm the responsible owner. But the school can take a ball bat away from my son. Like I told him, I said, I can send him in here with a ball bat, but y'all take it away from him. I said, but what you can't take away from him is my dog. That's what you can't take away from him. So how are you going to feel about a 130-pound pit bull going from class to class to class? You know, you ready to accept the responsibility for that? And you know, things kind of changed a little bit then, but we wound up taking Trey down to school because it went all downhill from there. It was all downhill. His grades went downhill. You know, at one time he loved getting up and going to school, and now he hated it. You know, we have an opportunity. You know, my mother's house is in that same school district that happened at, and we can't move. My mom offered to sell me her house for what she owes on it, which is less than half of the value of the house. And we can't buy that house because my son won't go to school in that school district. And he's at that age to where he can call the bullshit. You know, what's being taught, he can call the bullshit. And he's really good at it too. But he needs that social interaction. And he does need it. You know, I can tell more than, you know, I can talk to anybody in the world. I don't give a shit who you are, where you're at, how I met you. I can talk to you. I can find something in the first 30 seconds of looking at you that I can relate to you. And I can have a conversation with you about. He's not that way. And I don't want him to suffer through life because he can't talk to somebody, whether it be a girl or a boss or somebody giving an interview. And all that shit comes from your social interaction when you're a kid, for the most part. So, back to the story. So after that, I went down and seen the superintendent. The superintendent's an older black man. Now, when I sat down, they suspended the kid for a day, and we had all these other issues. So I go in there and talk to the superintendent about it. Older black man. I sit down across from the table from him. Now, when I'm telling him about the incident with the fight, I say white boy. You know what I'm saying? Beat that white boy's ass. And I say it just like that. You know, them kids said, you know, we're sitting there screaming, beat that white boy's ass as they were kicking the shit out of my son. And I said it 3 or 4 times, and I intentionally said it 3 or 4 times like that. Because as soon as I said it, I would stop and I would start talking about something else. And I would say it again. I would stop and start talking about something else. But man, when I said, you know what? That'd been my son and 10 of his friends going in there, holding some black kid down, screaming, you know, beat that ass, which I can't say it because of YouTube. Not because I'm afraid to say it, because hell, a lot of black people say it themselves. And if this is an educational video anyway. But as soon as I said that, that dude jumped up, I shit you not, and threw me out of his office. Like he was going to call the cops on me. And if the police station hadn't been like from here to this building behind me, away from me, which is just, you know, it's not far. It's like literally right out the front building is the police station. Like he would have had a problem too. You know, I tell everybody, you know, call the cops. That's on you. That gives me 5 more minutes to beat the piss out of you before they get here. Which I'm just bullshit when I say that most of the time. Anyway, so it was all downhill. But my 13-year-old now has an opinion. He doesn't have an opinion about one person. He has an opinion about groups of people from a certain race. Now, anybody can say about what I believe or what I don't believe. I don't shove my opinions down my kid's throat. It's about certain things I do. Like I don't, and it's not even an opinion. I try to shove fact down their throat. Like when it comes to our Constitution and Bill of Rights and history and things like that, I shove fact down their throats. When it comes to opinion, I let them make their own choices. And they ask me stuff all the time. Like, what do you think, Dad? I'm like, why does it matter what I think? I'm asking you. You tell me. It doesn't matter what I think. So we can't say it's because of me, because I'm not a racist person to begin with. I treat everybody how they deserve to be treated. And if you're an asshole, I treat you like an asshole. It's just that way. But what we're doing is by saying that hate is taught, which I'm not saying it isn't to some degree. I agree with that. But I think that it is taught, it is learned more by experience through that person's life, no matter what that experience may be. You know, whether that was something like my son's case or whatever. I mean, you know, there's a lot of people that go to jail and they come out of jail hating other races, whether that be white, black, whatever. I mean, it's just a fact of it. It's just part of it. But I don't think it's fair to say that hate is taught and then insinuate or say it's from the parents, because it's not. I've never taught my kids hate, but my kid will sit here and tell you, I'm not going to no predominantly black school. It's not happening, because he's the white kid, and that's just a fact. And he's seen it. He's seen how it works. He was right beside me when I was sitting in the principal's office talking to him. He was right there when I threatened to whoop that dude's ass. And he was right beside me when I said, hey, you can get up and walk out of your class anytime you want if you got a problem, or you can walk to the office and call me. And he was right there when I told him I'd send my dog in there with him. You know, I don't hide stuff like that from my kids, because they need to see not to let people run over them. But what he also seen in that is that, and he knew, you know, because he'd seen it there. You know, you seen kids leave for some stupid shit in handcuffs, but like looking back at it, I never seen a black kid leave from that school in handcuffs. I seen a white kid leave there from handcuffs for sure, and he's seen that. So, I mean, I don't know what else to say about it other than I don't agree with that. I don't agree with it to any level that makes a difference. I think that hate is learned. But I will say that I don't agree with racism, that it exists at all in this country as people believe it does. Because racism and prejudice is two totally different things. And people fail to recognize that. They fail to recognize basic definitions. And if you look at the dictionary before 1994, the word prejudice wasn't in the definition of racism. And since then, the word prejudice has been added to the word racism. So am I racist now because I have a prejudice in what type of female that I find it? Am I racist because I only dated white females and then married white females? Well, according to the definition of racism, I am, because I had a prejudice. And it's all ridiculous. It's a joke. Anyway, chill out video before I go to bed. It's just on my mind and wanted to say it. Have a good night.